I take you back to Deuteronomy 28, verse 58, which says, if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, the Lord thy God. Then verse 59 talks about the consequences. Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed. So it's not only the plagues for this generation, it's the plagues even for the generations that come after us who are our seed. And then, what does it say? Even great plagues, and of long continuance, That means these are chronic problems. These are the NCDs that we are talking about. The hypertension is a chronic problem. That means we do not have solutions to fix it, to treat it, and to cure it. So it will be of long continuance. And then says, sore sicknesses and of long continuance. This verse emphasizes the long continuance, which is the chronicity of the problems. That means these are problems, when they come to us, they are there to stay. They are not going anywhere. And we are saying these problems usually come to us as a result of us not observing God's laws, God's commandments, God's statutes. I'm not saying everybody who suffers from hypertension has broken those laws. Mind you, there is a small percentage, about 5 to 10% of people who suffer from hypertension. These are of problems that are not of their own making. There's that small group, which I will mention briefly. People who have got congenital deformities of the heart. There's one that is called coarctation of the aorta, the major vessels that takes blood from the heart distributing to the rest of the body. If you have got that one, you will have hypertension, not because you have broken God's laws. If you have got renal artery stenosis, that is narrowing of the vessel that supplies blood to your kidney, you will end up with hypertension. If you have got chronic infections of the kidney, chronic pyelonephritis, you can end up with hypertension. If you have got a tumor, that is called a pheochromocytoma, a tumor which is found at the adrenal gland, which sits at the top of your kidney, you can end up with hypertension. So not everybody who has got hypertension has broken God's laws. I just wanted to make that clear. That's a small percentage. But we are saying the 90% could be prevented, because these are the problems that come to us as a result of us looking after ourselves negligently. So we are saying hypertension. Most of us are walking around and are unaware that we are hypertensive. If we may ask right now, how many of us know what our blood pressure readings are? There will just be a few who will raise their hands. Why? Because most of us don't even bother to have it checked, because we think we are feeling okay. So it's not necessary for us to have our blood pressures checked. But the reason why each and every person who presents themselves to our clinics or to our hospitals, regardless of whatever condition it is that has brought you to hospital, our nurses, the frontline nurses, will make sure that they check your blood pressure, is because that may be your only opportunity to have your blood pressure checked. Why? Because this is a problem that has no specific symptoms. So there's nothing that you will feel that will push you to go and see your practitioner or your nurse. This thing called pain, which we say is difficult to live with, is a necessary evil, if I may say. Because this is what drives us to go and get checked. If you have got something that is painful, if you've got a pneumonia, an infection of the lung, it will give you pain. And that is the factor that will drive you to go and see your practitioners. Unfortunately now with hypertension, with high blood pressure, we don't have anything of that sort. Very few people, very few patients will have symptoms. So you may be walking around feeling quite okay, but you may be sitting on a time bomb. The hypertension is there, it's eating you from inside, but you are not aware because it has not yet produced any symptoms. And they are saying it's one of the problems of the 21st century. A lot of people have got hypertension. Worldwide, 600 million people are suffering from high blood pressure. And that's a huge figure. It's a huge burden. It places a lot of pressure on our economies because we have to look after these people. And what does it say? 3 million of those die as a result, as a direct result of hypertension. 3 million people worldwide dying as a result of hypertension. And they are dying of a problem that we say can be prevented. 3 million is a huge figure. If we take it to Zimbabwe, our population is around what? 13 to 15 million? So 3 million, if you take 3 million people out of Zimbabwe, that's about the number of people whom we lose worldwide as a result of hypertension. Now, it says high blood pressure can attack people of any age, creed, or color. If you look at that picture there on the screen, you will realize that there are people of different ages there. Most people, when you tell them they are hypertensive, they will not say, no, I cannot be hypertensive because I'm very young. Who says a young person cannot have hypertension? Even those children in the pediatric wards, the under fives, we've got children in the under five clinics who have got hypertension. So if you thought it was just for you adults, you were wrong. You can have hypertension at a very young age. So age does not discriminate, hypertension does not discriminate as a result of age. Creed, you will notice that there are people of all colors there, all races. Now, it doesn't matter whether you are black, whether you are white, whether you are Indian, whether you are green or you are yellow, Shona or Ndebele, as long as you are a human being, you may have hypertension. In the US, 50% of those over the age of 40 and 70% of those over the age of 65 have got hypertension. Now, these are American figures. As I was checking, the last epidemiological study that was done in Zimbabwe to look at our figures for hypertension was in 2008. And they came up with a figure of 30.8% across the population. What does that say to us in this room? I'm saying 1/3 of you people looking at me are hypertensive. 1, 2, 3, one of you has got hypertension. 1, 2, 3, one of you has got hypertension. That's what we are saying if we are saying 30.8% of Zimbabweans are hypertensive. So that's a huge figure. The likelihood that you are one of them is quite high. Because hypertension does not have symptoms, half of those who have it don't even know, because they don't even bother to get checked. And those who do know often neglect treatment because they feel fine. We really have to struggle in the clinics to convince people that they need to do something about their hypertension, because maybe they visited our facilities because of a fracture. And in the process, we pick up that they've got hypertension. And they will say, in addition to this fracture, my friend, we need to fix this problem. And they say, no, I did not come here for what? For hypertension. Just fix my fracture and I go. They don't want to have their hypertension fixed. What they don't know is that this fracture is actually less of a threat to their life than the hypertension that they are sitting on and are not managing. And it's a real problem. We really have to struggle to convince patients to do something about their hypertension. So they neglect treatment. Why? Because they don't feel anything. There is no push factor. There is no pain. I don't know why God made it that way. If hypertension was painful, we would not be having these problems. People would be presenting to us for management because people are not comfortable with pain. Now, only 1 out of 8 with the condition is their blood pressure under control. So even for those that we are managing for hypertension, only 1/8 have got their hypertension under control. Why? Because there is a lot of resistance to medication. But not only that, there is a lot of resistance to lifestyle change. You take your time to educate these people. Reduce your salt, reduce your weight, exercise, don't smoke, don't drink alcohol. All that information they are pegged with. But what is lacking? Implementation. People are just simply not implementing what we teach them. Very resistant to change. They are just comfortable not doing anything with their hypertension because they think they are okay. But the next question is saying, is having just a little high blood pressure really of much significance? Just a little high blood pressure. Does it matter? Even if it doesn't cause you pain, does it matter? Hypertensives are 8 times more likely to suffer a stroke. We talked about a stroke yesterday. Or for the conditions that will devastate your life. One of them are the cardiovascular accidents. Those problems that happen to your heart and your blood vessels. The strokes and the heart attacks. The 3 major causes of cardiovascular accidents, hypertension is one of them. Diabetes is another. High cholesterol levels is another. So that trio is very dangerous. And the likelihood that you have got more than one problem is very high. I'm talking this from experience. You are more likely to be hypertensive and to have high cholesterol levels and possibly to have diabetes at the same time. So each one of those has got complications. And all those complications will be coming to one person. So the possibility or the likelihood that one of them will kill you if you don't do it is very high. So when we talk about these problems, take them seriously. So you are 8 times more likely to suffer a stroke if you are hypertensive, and 3 times more likely to have a heart attack. Now, this heart attack, you may be feeling well now, and the next minute you are not there. I don't mean that they have wheeled you out to hospital. I mean you are dead. Because a heart attack will not give you much time. Just 1 minute and you are gone. Right? For some people, it's so massive, it does not give you a chance to even be treated or managed. For others, it will leave you debilitated, disabled. The heart failures, the arrhythmias, the thromboembolic phenomena that come together with heart attacks, these are life-changing situations, and all will come about as a result of us not taking care of a little blood pressure. I can see the faces have changed. You are communicating to me just as my colleagues have just finished teaching us about communication. I can read it from your faces. Don't worry, you are not yet there. We are just creating an awareness. We want to make sure that when you go back home, you look after yourselves, you look after your families, and you look after your patients well. Musaurawane zvinhu zvamunogona kupreventa handiteka. Akuruma nzeve ndewako. And these people are 5 times more likely to develop heart failure than people with normal blood pressure. So, all those people whom you hear saying, I've got a heart problem, right? What they are saying is that they've got heart failure or cardiac failure. But in Zimbabwe, the biggest cause of heart failure is uncontrolled hypertension. You will be walking around with your hypertension, not knowing that you are hypertensive. Fortunately, our God is a caring God. What happens if you have got high blood pressure is that your body or your heart has got this capacity to compensate for that. Because when we talk about high blood pressure, we are talking about the pressure that is supposed to be overcome by your heart in order to maintain circulation. Now, a certain amount of pressure, your heart can do with that. If it goes above that, your heart starts to compensate. it tries to compensate by enlarging the muscle fibers. But this it does in anticipation that you will be doing something to reduce your blood pressure, your hypertension. Pretty much as somebody whom you overload. For a while, these guys, they may bear it. But much as they may be willing to continue with that load, there comes a time when, despite your willingness, you simply just have to drop down the load. So is with your heart. At some point, it stops compensating. And when it stops compensating in order to keep up with this load that I'm talking about, it goes into what is called decompensation. And when you are going into decompensation, you are saying you have got heart failure. Your heart has got problems. Why? Because you did not do something about this load. And this load was eating you from inside. By the time you start having symptoms, you are a shell, an empty shell, you are finished. At best, what the doctors can do for you is to arrest progression of your problem. If your heart muscle is already enlarged and your heart has gotten into heart failure, we are not going to be able to reverse the damage that has been done. But we are going to arrest, that is if we achieve control. Remember, we said only 1/8 of those people who are hypertensive have got their hypertension under what? Under control. So what is happening to the rest whose blood pressures are not under control? They are being eaten from inside. So despite taking your medication, if your medication is not enough to control your hypertension, you will still end up with the complications. If you are not embracing the lifestyle changes that we are selling to you today, you will still end up with what? With heart failure. So complications arise as a result of us not taking care of our little blood pressures. Persistent high blood pressure can also lead to irreversible damage of the kidneys. And this is one devastating illness. Please pray that you don't suffer from this one. From chronic kidney injury, or what we used to call renal failure, because it's very expensive to manage. But what happens with hypertension is that it destroys the small vessels that are supplying blood to your kidneys and to all those other organs, the brain, the heart that I was talking about. And when these small blood vessels have been destroyed, if it's those vessels that are supplying blood to your kidney, you end up with what? Kidney failure or renal failure, or what they are calling a kidney injury now. And you fall sick. Unless you get a kidney transplant, it means you have to be on lifetime dialysis. A machine will have to do that work for you. Now, these machines are not readily accessible. I understand now things are improving. We've got a machine here in Gweru. In Kwekwe, we've got a machine, and of course, Harare and Bulawayo. But remember, these are the machines that are saving the whole population in Zimbabwe. And it's not something cheap, it's expensive, I can tell you. I did not bother to find out how much a cycle is costing these days, but I see, Doctor, can I ask you? We've got a urologist here with us. How much is the cycle of dialysis nowadays? Please, can you qualify the 300? Is 300 RTGS or 300 US dollars? Right. I wanted him to say that. We are not talking about 300 RTGS or 300 bond. We are talking about 300 US per cycle. And most of the patients who have got chronic kidney failure will require about 2 cycles per week. How much of us are earning 300 US dollars per month? And we are saying this is what you need per cycle. I mean, yeah. You need that per cycle. If you need 2 per week, that translates into $600. What about in a month? 2,400 US dollars, not RTGS, my friend. Right. So What am I saying? I'm saying you can spare yourselves from that pain, from that misery, from impoverishing yourself and your families, simply by not taking care of a little blood pressure. So when you come to our offices and we tell you that you need to do something about the hypertension, we are not so much worried about what you are feeling right now. But because we have been trained and we know what can happen to you years later, we are saying we want to prevent that happening to you. I want you to get that message. When you are managing hypertension, it's not about what you are feeling today. It's about what could happen to you tomorrow. Because tomorrow you could just drop down dead with a heart attack and die. Or tomorrow we may just diagnose that you have got chronic kidney failure, chronic renal failure. And now you have to depend on a machine. All that you have been doing, the productive life that you have been doing is gone. And you are now a burden to the family and to society and to the country. All because of something that you could have avoided by looking after yourself and taking care of your hypertension. So, hypertension will slowly and silently destroy the vital organs without the person knowing. Unfortunately, for many, the first sign is often a stroke or sudden heart attack. For some, the first sign may also be their last. It's your first sign, but it's your last because you are no longer there. Yes. So, the damage is happening slowly. That's why you don't feel it. Silently. That's why you don't feel it. But surely, that's why you end up with the complications. Yeah. Ndogona uchikisidzira ndikuzviona. That's not my intention. I said I want to create awareness. So the nursing homes and cemeteries are filled with people who had just a little high blood pressure. The what? The nursing homes. And these are the homes that are full of people who are now disabled, who have been crippled as a result of not taking care of a little blood pressure. And the cemeteries. You know, you waste our time and our money because we need to come to your funerals to bury you. And we need to buy you expensive coffins because you did not do something about a little blood pressure. It's cheaper. It's cheaper to embrace this lifestyle. And it's cheaper to also take your medications than for you to die. It's more expensive to host a funeral than to buy a few dollars worth of drugs to avoid a premature death. Now, the question is, do you have high blood pressure? Most of you don't know because they have not been checked. Blood pressure will come with two readings, 120/80. Right, this is the normal. We want you to maintain it 8 or below 120/80 because this is what is ideal. The latest evidence is showing that you are more protected if your blood pressure is around this figure or below that. The 120 is the pressure when your heart is contracted. The 80 is the pressure when your heart is relaxed. Now look at this definition here. It's defined as having a consistent blood pressure of 140/90 or above. Now this is an average. We come up with this figure because usually you don't know the patient's baseline reading. Pastor Mapuz, do you know your blood pressure reading? Yeah, I saw him just a week ago. We checked his blood pressure, it was okay. It was okay. But the point I want to make is the blood pressure of 140/90, which we say hypertension is defined as 140/90 or above. There are some people who may have their blood pressures less than 140/90, less than 140/90, but may still be hypertensive. They've got a problem. But the problem with a clinician is that because they don't know your baseline reading, they cannot apply the accurate definition of hypertension to you. Strictly speaking, if your top reading, the 120 that I talked about, the systolic pressure, if it rises by 20 units, by definition, that's hypertension. The bottom reading, if it rises by 10 units, by definition, that's hypertension. My wife's blood pressure, for example, is always 90/60. All her life, it has always been 90/60. If I apply that definition to Mrs. Dondo, for example, a reading of 110/80, which is lower than 140/90. For her, that's hypertension. So what am I saying? Get to know your baseline reading so that your practitioner can manage you accurately. If I apply this definition to you, I will let you home without anything, without even the advice on lifestyle change, because the assumption is the BP is less than 140/90, so it's normal. But it's inaccurate. If you want to do it accurately, let's know what your reading, your normal blood pressure reading is under normal circumstances, so that we can then apply that definition accurately. What causes blood pressure? Approximately 90% of hypertension cases may be related to personal lifestyles. Right. This is outside that small group that I talked about. That can be investigated, and the specialists, if they fix that problem, your hypertension can go. But this one, 90% of this, it's lifestyle. It's how we lead our lives. So, which factors are implicated in hypertension? What's number one? Obesity, that we talked about yesterday. Obesity. Every pound of fat requires an extra mile of tiny blood vessels. So for every extra kg that you gain, you put an extra strain on your heart. And this is the strain that will eventually cause your heart to what? To fail. They are saying for this reason, people 20% or more overweight are 5 times more likely to have hypertension than are people of normal weight. I think we talked about this yesterday. Your likelihood of being hypertensive is much higher if you are obese. And the salt that we like so much, around the world, high blood pressure is uncommon in populations where salt intake is also very low. So do yourself a favor, my brothers and sisters, and do away with those salt shakers. You know, women, when they are preparing our tables, they will not forget to put this little bottle there. Yes. And when you visit your hotels, these guys will not forget to put your salt shakers there. And strange enough, I don't know whether you have noticed it, some people, the moment they sit on the table, without even tasting their food, their hand is already on the salt shaker, putting more salt. They have not even tasted it, but they are already what? Putting more salt. But they say in places where salt intake is high, such as Japan, the disease is epidemic, affecting approximately 1/2 of the adult population. 1/2 of the adult population. Don't say this is in Japan. Right now, all the people who are in here, they are middle-aged to elderly people. And this is the age group where the non-communicable diseases are hitting fast. They are hitting hard. The hypertensive. This is the time when we start having these problems. And almost all of us here are in the middle age to what? To adulthood. So don't think we are safe. we are as much at risk as these Japanese here. We said our figures were around 30.8%. And remember, I said this was in 2008. Now, we are almost, it's what? It's more than 10 years. So that figure is most likely in the 35 or even 40% now for the Zimbabweans. They are saying Americans, for example, consume an average of 2 teaspoonfuls of salt per day. That's about 16 times more than the body actually needs. So what does the rest do to us? Just damaging us and causing our blood pressures to go up. Why? Because we listen to our taste buds more than we listen to reason. Yes. The lower powers are now governing the what? The higher powers. Appetite. Smoking. Just one cigarette can elevate blood pressure for as long as 30 minutes. At this rate, typical pack per day smoker is elevating his blood pressure for most of the day. Right. Some of us may say, I don't smoke, so it doesn't contain me. Yes. No, it does, because we share this environment with others. And there's passive smoking, which is equally damaging. So do yourself a favor by banning people from smoking around you. All right? So we may end up with these problems from smoking, not because we've beaten a cigarette, but because we are sharing an environment with colleagues who are smoking. Smoking is the nicotine in there is a powerful poison. You know, if you took an extract of nicotine from tobacco, and you gave a direct injection into a patient, they will die instantly, immediately. It's a powerful poison. So what those guys have done is to just make sure that they give you a little bit of poison, not enough to kill you, but just enough to make you their slave. All right? You will get hooked to it. In the process, they have captured a loyal market for life. They get their money from you for life. They wreck your life. And then when you have got your problems, it doesn't concern them. So, do away with smoking. And alcohol and caffeine. The caffeine will touch us. Some of us here, we love our coffee. Especially this time of winter that we are approaching now. We've got our coffee in the morning, our coffee in the afternoon, our coffee in the evening before bed. And we are saying it has got an effect on these problems. It will cause your blood pressure to go up. Studies show that 1 cup of coffee per day may raise the blood pressure considerably, 5 to 6 points. So if you like your tea, if you like your coffee, please make sure it's decaffeinated. Your rooibos and stuff. Otherwise, drink water. Your plugged arteries will raise your blood pressure. And then this one. Physical inactivity is also associated with elevated blood pressure levels. The physical inactivity, most of us are guilty of this one. We are not active. We are just sitting. You rise from your bed, you go to take a bath, you jump into a car or into a combi. You go into a lift, you don't even bother to use the steps that are there, right? And you sit on your chair the whole day. At the end of the day, you do the same process. You go back home, sit on your comfortable sofa, take your remote control, change your channels while you are sleeping on the sofa, and in your left hand, there's a packet of chips with high amounts of salt, and or there's a huge bag of popcorn with a lot of salt, lots of calories, lots of salt. Is it any wonder then why we end up with problems? We are not active. We don't even bother to sweep our houses, we delegate that to our maids. We don't even bother to do our gardens. We delegate that to our gardeners. Nowadays, our women, a lot of things have become automated. They have automated dishwashers. So they don't even do their dishes. Their washing is done by their washing machines. They don't even do that. And I've seen my wife nowadays also preparing pap or sadza in the microwave. You don't even, there's no moving around. I don't know. These are the small activities that we could be doing that could be contributing to controlling our blood pressures. So be active and exercise. By the way, because I want to lead by example, while you were sleeping this morning, I woke up at 5:10. I had to look for the security guard to open the gate for me so that I could go out. And I went on my road run, and I ran all the way to the crushers there and back. By the time you were waking up, I was done with my day's exercise. What have you done for your exercise today? So, this is the challenge that I want to give you. By the way, I said I am also hypertensive. This is why I'm doing these things. I want to sell the idea to my patients and say I'm living it. I'm not just giving a prescription of doing exercise. I'm also doing the what? The exercise, and it's working for me. That's why I gave you a testimony and said, my medications drastically reduced. Amen. Because one of my pills is the exercise that I do every morning, which does not cost me much except it cost me, 50 minutes this morning to do my exercise. Stress is another factor. Please take care of your stress. I'm not even going to talk about the tablets, because if you look at the management protocol of hypertension, we are using what are called JNC guidelines, the latest guidelines that are there now. After diagnosing your hypertension, this is coming from the secular world, mind you, from the specialists. They are not even Adventists. But the first thing that they talk about is lifestyle change. They say implement lifestyle change. Before we even go to what? To the tablets. The tablet or the medication is supposed to be an add-on. If you have done your lifestyle change, you have reduced your weight, you are exercising every day, you have done away with your salt shaker, you are not smoking, you are not drinking, you have managed your stress, all those things that we talk about. If they have not achieved adequate blood pressure control, then Dondo can come in with a prescription to augment that. It's not the first thing to do. It should be the last thing for us to do. So we are selling lifestyle change here rather than drugs or medications. So reduce weight, reduce salt intake. How do you reduce salt intake? It's not only the salt shaker that is the problem. The real problem are the processed and the fast foods that we like so much. And why do we eat processed and fast foods? It's because we have neglecting taking care of our nutrition at home. If you have a good breakfast in the morning before you leave home, there's no need for you to be taking snacks during the day. Maybe your next meal might be just your lunch, a light lunch, midday. All these snacks that you take, the chips, the fresh chips, the what do you call those other chips? Things. The things, yes. The things. And the pizzas and the pies. You know, all you are taking there is a lot of calories and a lot of salt. a lot of fat and a lot of carbohydrate, which you don't need. You have your good breakfast, and then avoid this, because this is where you are getting most of your salt. So, if you want to reduce your salt intake, one of the things that you have to do is to do away with snacking. Do away with snacking. If you really feel you want to have something to eat in between your meals, go for the fruits. Yes, go for the fruits. Nobody will ever die of an overdose of fruits. In fact, they say there is nothing like an overdose of fruits. Yes. But you will die of an overdose of the carbohydrates and the fats and the chips that you love so much. I know the fast food companies will not be happy with us talking about these things, because most of you are their customers. You don't bother to prepare your lunch boxes at home and take with you healthy meals, because it's convenient for you to just run to Chicken Inn and buy yourself some chicken. Yes, it tastes very good, but in the end, it will take you to the cemetery prematurely. So, avoid caffeine and alcohol. Reduce intake of your high-fat foods. So, avoid your Chicken Inn. Right. I've seen most of your faces here. I will make it a point that each time I pass through Chicken Inn, I look and see who are the Adventists who are full of information but don't want to implement it. We have given you this information not just for you to know, but for you to practice. Increase physical exercise. Exercise is one of the things that I do religiously. The only day I don't normally exercise is Friday, because normally I do my exercises in the evening. So Friday evening, because there's some other important business to take care of, I don't do it. But from my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I make sure that I have got my good dose of exercise. If I don't do that, I end up with a huge pill burden of controlling hypertension. I don't want to die like you people, dying carelessly of a problem that I can avoid. Yes. So I will make sure that I do my exercise every day. Now this, you do anything. The message is just move, just be active. Shamara, all right, I'm just about to conclude. Today's talk is, but I think it's important. Our people are dying because they are ignorant. Let's take that ignorance out and throw it through the window. So, if you do it yourself, in the process, you'll be teaching something to your children. In fact, it's better to do it as a family. This is what we are doing at home. I do it with my wife. Because our boys are no longer at home, we have exported them. It's just the two of us. It's just the two of us, but do it as a team. And it actually also enhances your bonding. Some of our best moments, we get them when we are doing our exercise, because in between when we are taking breaks, we are talking about the little nothings that matter. So, you may do aerobics, you may jog, you may do brisk walking, you may do your gardening, you may rake that yard. Do anything to exercise. One of the most efficient ways of losing weight for those of you who want to lose weight is the skipping rope. You know, the fish that you used to do long back when you were kids, when we did not have television sets, this is how we were entertaining ourselves. And in the process, we kept ourselves healthy. So that one, science has proved that is the most efficient way. So you don't even need big space. Just a rope. If you don't want to buy it, just make one for yourself. And you can do these exercises, the skipping rope. And then, please, reduce stress. Reduce stress. Time man. I wish this resource could be created. But unfortunately, we can't. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not talked about drug management of hypertension. That is for your practitioners to do. My message is, the first thing you should do is not to swallow the tablet, but that's not to mean that tablets are not important. The first thing to do is to implement the lifestyle changes. Make sure, even if you implement the lifestyle changes, you are followed up by your practitioner who will guide you that is doing fine. If it's not doing fine, they will then do the add-on of the little tablet that will assist in order to achieve good control. Because only good control can be the only safeguard to make sure that you don't end up with complications.
You can have 10 minutes.
Marakanaka mumbo. Once I can have 10 more minutes. Thank you. I can have 10 more minutes. Right, they are saying 30 to 60 minutes of exercise daily, such as brisk walking, cycling in the open air, is ideal, right? They are saying daily. Not sometimes, not occasionally. Science has proved if we are doing it on an occasional basis, it's not benefiting us. We are emphasizing the regularity of your exercise. It has to be something that is regular, something that is programmed. So the minimum, I'm taking a risk here now, the minimum is 3 non-consecutive days per week of an exercise that takes you for between 30 and 45 minutes per day. The reason why I say I'm taking a risk is because my friends and colleagues, people of my color, if you tell them a minimum, they will work with a minimum. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you are hard-pressed for time, right, make sure you create for yourself 3 non-consecutive days per week that you exercise. But otherwise, the ideal is what is being talked about here. Exercising what? Daily. Let it be every day, your exercise. So don't work with a minimum. Do as much exercise as you can, but minimum 3 non-consecutive days a week of 30 to 45 minutes. Right, for those of you who want to maintain weight, for those of you who just want to keep fit, their weight is okay, the 3 non-consecutive days will suffice. But for the person who wants to manage their weight, because you are overweight, this one you need much more than 3 non-consecutive days. This is the person who would need to do their exercises literally every day. Just create time for yourself and do it, and you'll be able to achieve that weight control. I did not talk about the issue of weight control yesterday because we did not have time, but I'll talk about a little bit of that now. In terms of weight, if there's one area where people are very sensitive, is if you start talking about their weight. If you just pass a comment that, you've gained weight, they will say, no, I've actually reduced. They are quick to say they are actually reducing their weight, when in fact all the evidence, including the scale, is saying you have gained. And it beats me. It just beats me. I don't understand it. It's very sensitive. But when we comment about your weight, it's not because we want you to feel bad. It's because we want to assist you. We are saying you have taken the wrong path. You can drop down dead anytime. Please do something about your what? Your weight. So, in order to achieve a loss of weight, to begin with, gaining weight is just simple arithmetic. On the one hand, you have got calories that you put in. This is the food that you eat, right? Especially your refined foods, your carbohydrates, and your fats. These are calorie-dense foods. If you eat a lot of those, on the one hand, and then on the other hand, where you are supposed to be taking out calories or burning them by exercise, if you do very little of exercise, that is very little of burning the calories. It's just the net result of calories in and the calories out. What determines which direction you take is whether the calories you are putting in are more than the calories you are taking out, in which case you are gaining weight. If you are now burning more calories, if you are exercising more than you are eating now, burning more calories than you are eating, it means you will reduce weight. So it's as simple as that. When we go home and we want to reduce our weights, just look at what you are eating and how much you are taking out in terms of exercise. So, weight control is very easy. If you are somebody who is well disciplined, you can do it yourself. And then here it says reducing stress is essential. Simply following all the elements of a healthy lifestyle enhances one's ability to deal with life's stressors. A healthy body and mind will give you the upper hand in coping with the stresses you face. For example, research shows that regular physical exercise is one of the simplest and most effective means of stress relief. Exercise helps to dissipate the tension, the stress, the depression. So, in addition to managing your hypertension, it assists you to manage every other non-communicable disease that we know of. So the principles that you use to manage the non-communicable diseases, from an Adventist point of view, they are just the same. They are just the same. So you can apply this to manage your hypertension. You can apply them to manage your diabetes. You can apply them to manage your weight. You can manage them to manage your arthritis as well. If we apply all these principles and we do them religiously, we are able to control those non-communicable diseases or problems. Now, some of you have gotten into the habit of taking tranquilizers. When things get tough, we find the easy way out. We want the tranquilizer. Doctor, can you give me a sleeping pill so that I can sleep? Right, you can go and sleep, but that does not deal with your stress. Face the issue. Deal with it comprehensively. And then you are okay. You avoid these tablets that people talk about. Now, I will leave the rest of the minutes maybe to comments or to contributions so that we can exhaust the 10 minutes that we have been allocated. 10 minutes extra. I see no hands, which means I've scared you good enough. I'm leaving the podium now. Thank you. Normally on Saturdays, I said I do it in the evenings. So on Saturday evening, after we've come from church, after our sunset, we change into our exercise clothes and we take a long walk. Usually on Saturday, we don't do something very heavy, but we go on a long walk with Mrs. Dondo. So we do it in the evening after sunset. Yes. BP low is not much of a problem unless that patient is symptomatic. Kana achishowa signs okuti ari kurwara iri kumurwarisa low BP yacho, we will do something about it. But this so-called low BP, which most people will come with to our clinics, is not a low BP. It's a normal BP for you, but it's lower than the average. Like I was talking about, my wife's blood pressure is only 90/60. But somebody whose BP is normally around 120/80, if they get to 90/60, they start feeling funny symptoms. For that patient, you need to manage. But for the patient who is not symptomatic, even if the BP is reading low, what is called low, we have no problems with that. Mind you, the gadgets that we use, especially the home gadgets that we use for measuring our blood pressures, those digitals, the electronic machines, they are very erratic. Very, very erratic. If you take your blood pressure now, it will give you one reading. If you take it the next moment, it's completely different. That should tell you something about the quality of the gadget that you are using. So most people whom we see who come to us complaining of low blood pressure is a result of the machines that they use that are erratic. The gold standard of measuring a high blood pressure, right, is the mercury sphere. You know that upright one, the mercury sphere. That one is very accurate. But it's also important how we take the blood pressure. If your blood pressure is taken while you are assuming the upright position or you are sitting, you are more likely to get a lower blood pressure reading than the ideal. The ideal is when your patient is lying, what we call the supine position, lying flat on the bed, with the arm that you are checking at the level of your heart. If you check your blood pressure that way, then you are getting an accurate reading. Any other way of doing it, the way you do it is wrong. And the gadget that you are using is wrong. So don't put a lot of faith in those machines that we are buying and distributing. Don't make any decisions that are based on that. Even if you take your blood pressure and you say it's low, don't make a decision yourself. Go and consult a professional in the field. They will either confirm or they will dispel your fears. And they are more likely to give you advice that is accurate.
Doctor,
now I'm in trouble again.
That's your patient. Okay, I understand what you're explaining, which is very important about hypertension. What about me? I'm deaf and I've got hypertension, and then I come to your surgery, and then you encourage me to exercise early in the morning, and I run. Does it mean it reduces my hypertension?
Yes, it does. Lifestyle change, it will reduce the hypertension. The message that I want to sell to people is that if your hypertension is mild or mild to moderate, it can actually be managed without medication, but by simply adopting lifestyle change. Even the medical schools are teaching this. The problem is that when we leave the medical school and when we go into busy clinics, we have no time to explain these things. The easiest thing to do is to just issue a prescription and ask the next patient to come. But ideally, if we were doing it the right way, we are supposed to be teaching this. And as I was sitting there, I was actually saying, medicine, the practice of medicine, should be the preserve of Seventh-day Adventists. Because they do it in a wholesome way. Otherwise, the rest of our practitioners, we become ngangas and we stop being very useful to our patients because we ignore this thing which is very important. If you meet a patient who is hypertensive, it's an opportunity to teach them lifestyle, which will not only manage their hypertension, but it will manage in a wholesome way their whole life. Amen. Right. So, if one were to legislate, you would legislate that one of the conditions for admission to medical school is that you are Seventh-day Adventist.